When we think of old Hollywood, we think of blonde bombshells and handsome leading men living an extravagant, amazing life of wealth and celebrity. However, that's not really how it was. Back then, the major studios ruled Hollywood. They controlled every part of their stars' lives, from what they wore to whom they married. But there's much more to the story. Here are some of the most outrageous abuses of the old Hollywood studio system. An anonymous actress once said, "Abortions were our birth control." That's how common they were in the time of the classic Hollywood studio system, and most of the time, actresses were forced to get them because of the contract they signed. Studios wanted to keep their sex symbols, well, sexy. So pregnancy and even marriage were often completely off the table. Studios forced men to cover up their sexuality with sham marriages. Child actors were force-fed uppers to keep them peppy, then given downers to make them sleep. Actors with ethnic names or backgrounds were forced to make up entirely new identities. The audience just got to see the motion picture in the theater. The literal blood and sacrifice of the actors and actresses on the big screen was all left on the cutting room floor. Judy Garland was forced to have 2 abortions. It's one thing when a movie studio pressures a young actress to make tough decisions, but for Judy Garland, the betrayal ran even deeper. Her own mother played a part in it, too. Judy Garland became a global star at just 17 years old in The Wizard of Oz. Audiences loved her as Dorothy, and MGM, the studio behind her success, wanted to keep her looking young and innocent. They even tried to control her personal life to protect that image. Just a few years later, Judy married bandleader David Rose. She didn't ask MGM for permission, and they weren't happy. They saw her marriage as a threat to her innocent image. When Judy became pregnant, the studio didn't want her to have a baby. Her mother even worked with MGM to arrange an abortion for her. Later, Judy became pregnant again, this time from a relationship with actor Tyrone Power. Once again, Judy was pressured into an abortion. Her struggle with Hollywood's control and her personal battles eventually led to her issues with drugs and alcohol. Despite all this, she went on to have 3 children, including actress Liza Minnelli, and 5 marriages. Tragically, Judy's life was cut short when she passed away in 1969 at just 47 from an overdose of barbiturates. Loretta Young hid her pregnancy, then adopted her own daughter. Loretta Young began her career in Hollywood as a child star and rose to fame, eventually winning an Academy Award and becoming one of the most respected actresses of her time. But beyond the screen, Loretta was deeply committed to her Catholic faith, a rarity in Hollywood's glamorous and often scandalous world. Her beliefs played a significant role in her life, influencing many of her decisions, especially when it came to issues of morality. Unlike many actresses pressured by studios to avoid scandal at any cost, Loretta refused to have an abortion, no matter the personal or professional consequences. In 1935, while filming Call of the Wild, Loretta found herself entangled in an affair with her co-star, Clark Gable, one of Hollywood's most charming leading men. Gable, however, was married, and though their romance was brief, it had lasting repercussions. Later, Loretta admitted to her biographer that Gable pressured her a lot, and that she only slipped once. But that one time was enough. She soon discovered she was pregnant. In the conservative climate of the 1930s, an unmarried actress having a child would have sparked a massive scandal, likely ending her career. To prevent this, Loretta and her family orchestrated an elaborate cover-up. She pretended to have a mysterious illness, retreating from the public eye while continuing the illusion by staging a sick bed interview with a gossip columnist to deflect any suspicions. When she gave birth in secret, she took great care to avoid attention, even relocating to protect her privacy. Following the birth, Loretta created a complex plan to reintroduce her daughter to the world without compromising her reputation. She arranged to adopt her own child, Judy, and told the press that she would be raising this orphaned baby as a single mother. The adoption story allowed her to protect her image, and for years, Loretta maintained the fiction to safeguard both her career and her child's future. It wasn't until decades later that the truth came to light. For years, Judy Young had struggled with rumors and speculation about her true parentage, with people noticing her strong resemblance to Gable. In time, Loretta finally revealed the truth to her daughter. Rock Hudson was forced to get married. Rock Hudson was one of the most admired stars of the 1950s, a tall, handsome leading man who captured the hearts of audiences worldwide. Known for his charming smile and romantic roles, he was Hollywood's perfect movie hero. But Rock Hudson had a secret that the studio system went to great lengths to hide. He was gay. In an era where homosexuality could end an actor's career, being openly gay wasn't an option, especially for someone as high-profile as Hudson. The studio saw Hudson's popularity as a huge asset, and they were determined to protect his image. To keep up appearances, they arranged a lavender marriage in 1955, pressuring Hudson to marry Phyllis Gates, who worked as his agent's secretary. This marriage was intended to make Hudson appear straight to the public and preserve his image as an eligible romantic star. Many insiders in Hollywood knew the truth, but the public was kept in the dark. For fans, Rock Hudson was the embodiment of masculinity and romance. The marriage lasted just 3 years, but even after the divorce, Hudson continued to live in secrecy, unable to openly be himself. Years later, in 1985, Rock Hudson became one of the first major celebrities to publicly acknowledge he had AIDS. At a time when awareness about the disease was limited, his announcement shocked the world and brought a spotlight to AIDS that hadn't been there before. Although he didn't formally come out as gay, his diagnosis and later public statements revealed the reality of his life. Hudson's story remains a poignant example of the lengths to which Hollywood went to shape its stars' public images, forcing many to hide who they truly were. In his final years, Hudson's struggle became a turning point, not only for awareness of AIDS, but also in opening conversations about the hidden lives many stars were forced to lead. Judy Garland was forced to take dangerous drugs. By the time Judy Garland was just 16 and finished filming The Wizard of Oz, her life was already deeply shaped by the pressures of Hollywood. MGM, the studio behind her career, was known for working young stars to exhaustion, and Judy was no exception. She was thrown into an intense routine, constantly moving from one film set to another without real breaks. The studio wanted to get as much work as possible from her, seeing her incredible talent as a product they could sell. To keep Judy and other young actors going, MGM gave them pep pills to boost their energy and keep them awake during long days of filming. But when night came, and they couldn't sleep due to the stimulants, they were given barbiturates to help them relax. Judy was soon trapped in a vicious cycle of pills to wake up and pills to sleep. This dangerous routine led her to an addiction that would haunt her for life. The pressure didn't stop there. MGM executives constantly told Judy she wasn't thin enough. They put her on strict diets, sometimes only allowing her to eat soup and lettuce, and encouraged her to take more pills to lose weight. The studio controlled every aspect of her life, making sure she fit the perfect image they wanted for her. This relentless pressure took a devastating toll on Judy. The constant demands of Hollywood, along with the pills and strict diets, fueled her struggles with addiction and mental health. The studio treated her as a product rather than a person, leaving her with little choice but to follow their rules. Sadly, this early exploitation affected Judy for the rest of her life, showing just how damaging Hollywood's control over young stars could be. Jean Harlow was not allowed to get married. Jean Harlow, one of Hollywood's first true blonde bombshells, had a life that was controlled down to the last detail by MGM Studios. As her popularity soared, MGM became obsessed with maintaining her perfect image. To them, a single, unattached Harlow was far more attractive to male fans, so they went to extreme lengths to protect that image. They even put a strict morality clause in her contract, which forbade her from marrying her love actor William Powell. Although she wanted to marry him, MGM believed that a married woman would lose her appeal to audiences, especially one marketed as a glamorous and unattainable sex symbol. There were also rumors that Harlow became pregnant from an affair during this time. According to Hollywood insiders, she quietly checked into Good Shepherd Hospital under a fake name, Mrs. Jean Carpenter, to get some rest, as MGM put it. The studio went to great lengths to keep her visit hidden, ensuring she was only seen by private doctors. This secrecy wasn't to protect Harlow's privacy or health, it was to guard the studio's investment in her as a bombshell icon. They valued her image over her personal life, seeing her less as a person and more as a carefully crafted fantasy for the public. Jean Harlow's life and career were tightly managed to uphold this sexy single image, with little regard for her true happiness. She was expected to be the ultimate blonde bombshell at all costs, and MGM was willing to interfere in her relationships and personal choices to keep it that way. Harlow's story is a sad reminder of how Hollywood prioritized image over well-being, especially for actresses like her, whose identities were manufactured to fit narrow, marketable stereotypes. For Harlow, this control left little room for the real woman behind the glamorous image, a reality shared by many stars in Hollywood's golden age. Louis B. Mayer purposefully ruined John Gilbert's career. Louis B. Mayer, co-founder of MGM, was a powerhouse in old Hollywood. He built MGM into one of the biggest studios around, but he was known for his ruthlessness. When silent movies were ending and talkies were taking over, Mayer decided he didn't want the silent film star John Gilbert in the new era. The two men had clashed over money and creative decisions, and Mayer saw Gilbert as too expensive to keep. To make sure Gilbert couldn't succeed in talkies, Mayer went to extreme lengths. He started rumors in fan magazines, saying that Gilbert's voice was high-pitched and unpleasant, making it sound like he'd be a disaster in sound films. Then Mayer purposely put Gilbert in several movies that were destined to fail, just to ruin his reputation even more. Audiences began to believe that Gilbert's acting wasn't good for talkies, and the press turned against him. With his image destroyed and faced with poor reviews, Gilbert left MGM in 1933. He was one of the most popular actors of the silent film era who never made it in talkies, all because Mayer's sabotage ensured he wouldn't succeed. This shows how Mayer and MGM could break a star's career if they wanted to, using rumors and bad roles to control who stayed in the spotlight. The studio demanded that Dorothy Dandridge have an abortion. Dorothy Dandridge was often called the Black Marilyn Monroe for her beauty and talent. She became a star with her role in Carmen Jones, 1954, directed by Otto Preminger. But behind the scenes, Dandridge faced many challenges, both personal and professional. During the filming, she and Preminger started a relationship, which eventually led to her becoming pregnant. However, Preminger, who was already married, refused to leave his wife. This left Dandridge in a difficult position. The studio stepped in, pressuring her to have an abortion. They didn't want anything to disrupt her image as a glamorous, unattainable sex symbol. They thought that if her personal life became too complicated, she would lose her appeal to audiences. Another issue was that Dandridge was mixed race, while Preminger was white. In 1955, some states still had laws against interracial relationships and marriages, known as miscegenation laws. This meant that even if Preminger had wanted to marry her, it wouldn't have been legal in many places. Dandridge was forced to put her career and image over her personal happiness, showing how studios often use their control to keep stars in line with Hollywood's strict and unfair standards. Ava Gardner had an abortion because of MGM's penalty clauses. Ava Gardner, the legendary actress known for her beauty and fiery spirit, faced intense control by MGM even in her personal life. During her marriage to singer Frank Sinatra, Gardner became pregnant. But MGM had strict rules in place for their star actresses. If they had a baby, their career could be over. MGM's contracts included penalty clauses that would cut off their salary if they didn't follow these rules. Gardner had no real choice. She later explained that if she had kept the baby, her income would have stopped, and she couldn't afford that. Frank Sinatra was struggling financially at the time, and Gardner had movies lined up all over the world. MGM made all the arrangements, flying her to London for the procedure, and ensuring it was kept secret. Someone from the studio was with her the entire time, making sure everything went smoothly and quietly. Sinatra reportedly never knew about the abortion. Gardner's story is a harsh reminder of the power studios had over their stars. MGM saw Gardner as an asset, one that couldn't afford to slow down or appear distracted. Her experience shows how studios use their authority to control not just careers, but lives, even at the most personal level. Paramount fired Clara Bow after her nervous breakdown. Clara Bow was Hollywood's original it girl, lighting up the silent film era with her charm and undeniable screen presence. She was also one of cinema's earliest sex symbols, drawing fans with her daring roles and playful personality. But her boldness in real life often led to scandalous rumors, stories of wild parties, countless romances, and even the wild tale that she'd been with the entire USC football team. Hollywood thrived on gossip, but for Bow, it created a reputation that eventually became a burden. Despite her wild image, Bow was incredibly hardworking, starring in 58 films from 1922 to 1933. Yet her off-screen reputation was too much for Paramount. When she suffered a nervous breakdown, likely due to the constant pressures and her family's history of mental illness, Paramount fired her. She was only 28 when she made her last film. After leaving Hollywood, Bow settled down, married, and had 2 children. But her struggles with mental health persisted. In 1944, she attempted suicide and eventually spent time in a psychiatric hospital. Reflecting on her career, she once wrote, "A sex symbol is a heavy load to carry when one is tired, hurt, and bewildered." Clara Bow's story reveals how Hollywood's pressure to uphold an image can deeply harm the stars it creates, leaving lasting scars even after the lights fade. Lana Turner had an abortion in her hotel room without anesthesia. Lana Turner became a Hollywood sensation at just 17, winning over audiences in Love Finds Andy Hardy and earning the nickname Sweater Girl for her famous curves. She was stunning, glamorous, and became one of the most talked about actresses in Hollywood. But behind the scenes, Lana's personal life was often filled with tragedy and struggle. She married 8 times, but the pressures of stardom and the control of Hollywood studios reached even deeper. In 1941, Lana became pregnant while on a publicity tour in Hawaii. The studios, which closely managed every aspect of their stars' lives, didn't want a pregnancy to affect her image. So, MGM's fixer, Howard Strickling, stepped in to arrange an abortion. The procedure was done in Lana's hotel room, without anesthesia, a horrifying and painful experience. Lana's mother was reportedly there, muffling her daughter's cries so no one would hear. The studio sent a doctor to perform the procedure, paying $500 to keep everything quiet. For Lana, this was just one of many sacrifices she made to keep her career. Her story is a stark example of how Hollywood studios saw stars as products rather than people, controlling their lives in painful, often cruel ways to protect the studio's image. Bette Davis had an abortion for a role in a film. Bette Davis was one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, but like many in her time, she faced tough choices forced by the studio system. In 1934, Davis became pregnant. She understood that having a child could mean the end of her career, as studios didn't look kindly on their leading lady stepping out of the glamorous, single image they wanted to maintain. Bette was ambitious and driven, knowing exactly what was at stake. She later shared with her biographer that if she hadn't ended the pregnancy, she would have missed the biggest role of her life. She was right. Shortly after, she landed the role of Mildred in Of Human Bondage, a role that transformed her career. This performance earned her the first of her 11 Academy Award nominations. She went on to win 2 Oscars, for Dangerous in 1935 and Jezebel in 1939, becoming one of the era's biggest stars. Davis's decision wasn't an easy one, but it reveals how the studios shaped actors' lives, pushing them to make personal sacrifices to keep their careers intact. Her story reflects the harsh realities that many actresses faced, forced to choose between motherhood and their dreams in a Hollywood that demanded everything but gave little in return. Vincent Minnelli married to hide his sexuality. Vincent Minnelli, a gifted director, and Judy Garland, one of Hollywood's brightest stars, seemed like the perfect Hollywood couple when they married in 1945. They had met on the set of Meet Me in St. Louis in 1944, where Minnelli's direction helped make Garland's performance unforgettable. Garland was just 25, and though this was already her second marriage, she was in love and hopeful for a stable life. But Minnelli had a private life he kept hidden, a life that Hollywood's strict rules and public expectations would never accept. Before moving to Hollywood, Minnelli had lived more openly in New York, where he was known to have same-sex relationships. However, in Hollywood, such relationships were strictly forbidden for anyone in the spotlight. Studios wanted their stars and directors to fit a perfect mold, and any hint of a same-sex relationship could destroy reputations and careers. Under intense pressure from the studio, Minnelli concealed his relationships, even from Garland. His secret life remained hidden until Garland eventually discovered the truth, finding him with another man. This betrayal and the heavy strain on their marriage were too much to bear, leading to their divorce in 1951. Minnelli would marry 3 more times after Judy, likely trying to keep up appearances in Hollywood's demanding culture. His story, like so many others, reveals the deep struggles of stars and creatives who had to live in shadows to protect their careers. Hollywood's obsession with image and perfection forced many to hide who they truly were. For Minnelli, the cost of fame meant sacrificing honesty in his personal life, showing how Hollywood's control over image could shape and often limit the lives of its stars. Marilyn Monroe, studio pressure and exploitation. Marilyn Monroe remains one of the most iconic figures in Hollywood history, celebrated for her beauty, charm, and vulnerability. But behind the glamorous image, Marilyn faced relentless pressure and control from the studio system. 20th Century Fox saw her as the perfect blonde bombshell, locking her into roles that emphasized her looks rather than her talent. She was typecast as the dumb blonde, even though those who knew her understood she was intelligent, curious, and eager to take on more serious roles. The studio was strict about her image, even controlling her appearance down to the finest details. Marilyn was expected to stay thin, blonde, and perfect at all times, often relying on diet pills and amphetamines to keep up with Hollywood's demands. This constant pressure took a toll on her mental and physical health, and the studio's strict control only added to her struggles. When Marilyn tried to demand better roles and fair pay, Fox retaliated by suspending her, showing how little power even the biggest stars had against the studio system. Despite her success, Marilyn's life was filled with loneliness and battles with addiction. She longed to be taken seriously as an actress and fought hard to break free from the roles and image imposed on her. Her tragic death at 36 revealed the harsh reality behind the Hollywood dream, a reminder of the relentless demands placed on her by an industry that valued image over well-being. Marilyn Monroe's story remains a testament to the pressures of fame and the sacrifices many stars made behind the scenes. Rita Hayworth, forced image transformation. Rita Hayworth, born Margarita Carmen Cancino, became one of Hollywood's most famous bombshells, but only after an intense transformation imposed by the studio. Columbia Pictures saw her potential, but decided that her natural look and background didn't fit the image they wanted for her. Studio head Harry Cohn led the effort to reshape her into a more American beauty. They changed her hairline, lightened her dark hair to auburn, and even encouraged her to change her name to the more glamorous Rita Hayworth. The transformation worked for Hollywood, and Rita's new look captivated audiences. Her roles emphasized her beauty and sensuality, making her a household name and earning her the title of the Love Goddess. But behind this new image was a woman who struggled with her identity. She once said, "Men fell in love with Gilda, but they woke up with me." Hollywood created Rita Hayworth, but Margarita Cancino felt more and more lost under this new persona. The studio's demands went beyond just her appearance. They controlled her career choices and kept her trapped in roles that emphasized her looks over her acting talent. Rita struggled to find parts that would allow her to grow as an actress. Her story shows how Hollywood studios often reshape their stars to fit narrow images, caring more about marketability than personal well-being. For Rita, it meant a lifetime of living up to an image that wasn't truly hers. Frances Farmer, institutionalization and career sabotage. Frances Farmer's rebellious spirit and natural talent made her stand out, but her nonconformity clashed with the rigid studio system of the 1930s. Paramount Pictures initially celebrated Farmer's potential, but her defiant personality and refusal to play the Hollywood game quickly made her a target. When she resisted the studio's attempts to mold her image and control her personal life, her career began to suffer, and she was labeled as difficult and unstable. The ultimate blow came when Farmer, already under immense stress from her deteriorating career, was committed to a mental institution. The studio allegedly used its influence to facilitate her institutionalization, where she endured brutal treatments, including electroshock therapy, and was even lobotomized according to some reports. The mental institution, intended for treatment, became a prison, with Farmer receiving no real help and her career left in ruins. Hollywood's handling of Farmer exemplifies how the studio system could destroy an actor's life if they refused to conform, showing a complete disregard for their mental health and personal autonomy. Peg Entwistle, typecasting and industry rejection. Peg Entwistle's story is one of the most tragic in Hollywood lore, symbolizing how the industry's treatment of aspiring stars could lead to utter despair. Known for her brief but memorable roles, Entwistle's talent and beauty weren't enough to protect her from the harsh realities of the industry. After a promising start in theater, Entwistle moved to Hollywood, hoping for similar success on the big screen. However, she quickly found herself typecast in dark secondary roles that offered little opportunity for advancement. As Entwistle struggled with rejection and the limitations of typecasting, her dreams of stardom became increasingly distant. The Great Depression had tightened the entertainment industry, making it even harder for her to find roles. Feeling trapped and rejected by an industry she had dedicated her life to, Entwistle took her own life by jumping off the H of the Hollywood sign in 1932. Her death became a haunting reminder of Hollywood's disregard for the mental well-being of its actors, especially those who struggled on the periphery of fame. Hattie McDaniel, segregation and stereotyping. Hattie McDaniel made history as the first African American to win an Academy Award for her role in Gone with the Wind, yet Hollywood's racial prejudices severely limited her career. Known for playing maids and servants, McDaniel was typecast into roles that reinforced racial stereotypes, and she often faced backlash from both white and black communities. Hollywood studios capitalized on her talent, but refused to give her the same range of roles offered to white actresses, effectively keeping her in subservient roles. Even as she made strides, McDaniel was segregated from her white peers at the 1940 Academy Awards, where she had to sit at a separate table. The studio also restricted her contractually, discouraging her from seeking diverse roles that might challenge her on-screen image. Despite her talent, McDaniel never got the chance to break out of the stereotypical roles that defined her career. Her story underscores how Hollywood's studio system used actors for its own profit while denying them opportunities and reinforcing the era's racial divisions, stifling McDaniel's career and personal growth.